Hello again, everybody. This is Derek, and I am coming back at you with another Wargaming Miniature video. In this video, we're going to continue on with my American War of Independence project update, my Land of the Free project update. And I apologize that I've got the camera right here, and my comfortable position is going to be right here, and it's going to be a little hard for you to see me, but you don't really want to see me anyway. You want to see what I've got on the table. Okay, so there's a couple of things that I wanted to kind of go over. One of them is that the basing for the infantry in Land of the Free is a 30 by 40 base, right? It's a fairly large base for an infantry game, right? But I don't know. I like it. I just like it. Now you're putting 6 figures on each stand, and there's only 3 stands representing your entire regiment or company or whatever it's supposed to be representing. Now, my Old Glory American War of Independence package came with 25 figures. It's supposed to be 20, approximately 24. And it just happened to come with 25, which I'm okay with. What I would normally do is put a commander, a standard bearer, the drummer, on a single base, and then two ranks of troops on every other base. Now with 6 bases, we're only going to get, what, 18 figures, right? And then a second rank behind the command. Now, I noticed that in the British bags, they have sergeants that carry pikes. Oh, there's only 5 figures. 18, 19, 23. I thought there was 25. Okay, so I'm actually short 1 figure to do the approximate 25. Okay, but that's fine, because what I was planning on doing was just a 3 figure or a 3 base unit, and then I was going to take the additional figures, I was going to put them in storage for when I do another unit. Now, I contemplated doing a 5th stand or 4th stand, just, if I had enough figures. And I could do it like that. I could do 5 figures on a stand. That's no problem. Or I could take one of these guys off of the command stand and make them, do something like that. I thought about doing a 4 stand unit, and then when they deploy, if I need a medium unit, then I would just use 3 stands. But the problem with that is the 4th stand will not be used by itself, because if this is a medium unit, this is a large unit. And so I would need extra models to do a large unit. But all I think I need is just 3 stands. So, because I considered doing all of my regiments as 4 stands, because that's how many figures you get in a bag normally, and then I would always have like this extra stand from each of the regiments that I deploy that I can attach to other regiments to make it a large regiment. Or I can just take a couple of stands from various regiments to form up a smaller unit, right? Well, I've decided that I don't think I want to do that. I think I want to just paint exactly what the unit is supposed to be in size. Now, these guys just got finished being washed. They're dry now, but I will probably not. I'll have to clean them up tomorrow. Okay, I plan to use Land of the Free rule set, and I plan to do the scenario Freeman's Farm, because it's a fairly small scenario. I could put it together fairly quickly, and then from there I can always build up my units from there. Going to the scenarios in the Revolutionary War, 1775 to 1783. Freeman's Farm happened in 1777, but I don't think... See how big that battle is? That's a lot of figures. You got the Battle of Princeton, which is 1777. It's January. And just looking at this, that's a lot of figures, right? So that's something I can build up to. Same thing with Brandywine. Brandywine was in September. Look out, there's multiple pages of troop units. That's something that I would have to aspire to. Here's Germantown. And that's fairly large as well. And then Kings Mountain. Now we're starting to go into the south. Cowpens and Guilford Courthouse, which I'm not really excited about the southern battles in the Revolutionary War, the later periods. I'm more interested in the northern campaigns. But I'm not opposed to doing southern battles. I just think the northern battles are just a little bit more, what's the word, like dire, right? Or not, or consequential, you know? All right. So because Freeman's Farm is not in here, I went ahead and I pulled a number of books out. I pulled out Black Powder First Edition and British Grenadier. Black Powder Second Edition does not have the Freeman's Farm battle in it. But this Black Powder First Edition does have the Battle of Freeman's Farm in it. Now, stat lines and unit sizes and all of that is going to be different. Okay, that's the Freeman's Farm battlefield. Okay, hang on. Yeah, Freeman's Farm. Okay. So, looking at the order of battle for Freeman's Farm, uh, you know that Black Powder uses battalions, or in this case, regiments of 24 figures, is kind of like the norm. 6 stands of 4 figures each. So I would have to half the number of stands to represent a normal unit. So, like where it says there's the 9th Foot in Hamilton's brigade, it says 24 figures. That's like your standard battalion. I would use a 3-figure or 3-stand battalion in Land of the Free. Now, it says Jaegers is a small unit, which that's half the size. I would make that a 2-stand unit. If it says small, I'm going to make it a 2-stand unit. And I don't see anything British-wise or Hessians, or I guess they're not Hessians, they're Brunswickers, that are going to be large. Now, the Continentals, they're showing the 2nd and 4th New York are 24. They're showing all these are 24 figures, except for the light infantry, which is a small unit, and the riflemen, which is a small unit. And then everybody else, even Learned's battalion or brigade, are all 24 figures. Okay, so this is more of a, they're putting standard sizes out there. Right? Okay. But then when you go to British Grenadier, okay. In British Grenadier, they also have Freeman's Farm, which is the 1st Saratoga. This is the Continental order of battle. And they have varying sizes, but 16 is like your normal unit size. But then they also have this 18, which is, in this rule set, is considered a larger unit. And then they also have Dearborn's light infantry is 12, but Morgan's rifles is still 16. So now I'm not going to use 16 figures, right? Which would be in this set of rules, that would be 4 bases. I'm going to be using 3 bases. It's going to be 18 figures, right? And the large unit is not going to be 4 bases. It's going to be 5 bases. So it's going to be much larger. And they're only showing 1 New York regiment, right? Where in Black Powder it shows 2 New York regiments, both standard. And this shows the New York as large. Yeah, it even says it included the 3rd New Hampshire, 4th New York, and the Continental Militia were divided into 2 battalions. The strength of these 3 units have been folded into the ones listed. Okay, so what they're saying is that basically they combined the battalions to make a larger regiment. Same thing with militia. Where in Black Powder, They kept them separate, but they kept them as standard size units. So someone is wrong. Either Warlord is wrong, or British Grenadier is wrong. So somebody is wrong. Okay, so I'm going to have to do my due diligence. Maybe look up the order of battle historically. Find out how many men were in these units. And then using Land of the Free, they have a way to determine how big a unit is based on how many men were in that unit, right? So if it's between 26 and 55 men, then it should just be 2 bases, a small unit. But if it's 80 to 225, then it should be a standard size unit. And if it's over 300, it should be a large unit. So it just depends on how I want to field it, what kind of a look I want to give, and then kind of balance the number of bases that is going to look good on the table with how many men were actually deployed in each of those units. And I'll have to maybe adjust, like instead of a 50-man base, maybe I'll call it a 100-man base, or maybe I'll call it a 25-man base, or whatever. But the bases, the contents of each base is going to be divisible by how many men are in that. Now, as you see, I have black powder, but I also have Rebellion, right? Now, this does not have Freeman's Farm in it, but it's got a lot of good. It's actually a very thick, one of their thicker books. It's got quite a bit of information about the American War of Independence in there, and a bunch of battles, and a little bit of historical context, and some painting ideas, right? Yeah, it's got the forces of the crown and what their uniform and organization is, and it lists all the different regiments and what battles or what campaigns they participated in. This one would be the Saratoga campaign, and I can just go down here and see, like right there, that's the 9th, but we already knew the 9th was there, right? But at least this tells me the facing color. But I'm not going to be able to rely too much on this, because I'm about to show you. That's the Hesse Castle, and this is the Brunswick regiments. So the Brunswick regiments actually took part in the Freeman's Farm. And then cavalry, and then you got forces of the rebellion. You got New England, and they have 75 to 76, and then 77 to 83. So you would think that I would be using the uniforms after the reorganization from this column. But I'm noticing that a lot of the units that participated in Freeman's Farm is not listed under any of these units. So I'm going to have to do, again, my due diligence and maybe look in other places. Okay, there's like New York and New Jersey. Then you got the middle colonies like Pennsylvania, Maryland, Delaware, and Virginia. Those were all there. And then in various strengths. And then the southern colonies like North and South Carolina and Georgia, which were not there. And then cavalry uniforms. And then it goes to artillery uniforms. And then it talks about the French and the Indians, some of the commanders, and they give you stats for them in the black powder rules, which some of the rules can be transferred directly over to Land of the Free and some cannot, right? But they don't have Freeman's Farm in here. They got Princeton, they got Germantown, they got Bemis Heights, or Bemis Heights, or however it's pronounced. This is a lot of the same troops fought the following month. So the middle of September at Freeman's Farm and early October at Bemis Heights. All right, so when I was looking for like painting ideas and concepts and stuff like that, I didn't find what I was looking for out of this. So I went to this, Uniforms of the American Revolution by John Mollo, illustrated by Malcolm McGregor. This is an excellent book. This is a book that I've been using for many, many years as my go-to paint concepts. The middle pages are all color plates, and those color plates are all described in the text, right? But before that, the first half before the color plates, it's all like who the troops were, why they were in the fight, how they fought, things like that. And then after the color plates is the description of the color plates. There are some flags that you might, and they show you like different weapons and stuff. And if you really want to get anal, all the rank structures and stuff. But it also talks about different campaigns, who was in where, and then it talks about, like, if there's a person in one of the color plates, and you read here, it might say this guy is unique, or it might say this is the standard uniform, or it might say only the first company looked like this, the second company looked like that. It was very, this is very detailed. Talks about Valley Forge, what units are at Valley Forge, who the commanding officers were, but it's not giving you like force strengths or anything like that. So, wait a second, I can't barely... Talking about different, the colors and which ones, why certain colors were used. When I say colors, I'm talking about the flags. This is not 100% comprehensive. It doesn't show every single unit. It just shows a good selection of units maybe 100, from each side, which is pretty good. Then I remembered I had this guy. Uniforms of the American Revolutionary War. All right, now these color plates, there's less of them, to be honest, but they're more detailed and it's more comprehensive, even though there's less. If that makes any kind of common sense. It talks about the forces, the navies, the battles, campaigns that took place. All that is cool. Cow pens. And then there's the naval war. And then starting here, militias, early continental and state troops. And then you got these pre-war militia units. And then it'll like tell you Sergeant, Virginia, Independent Company of Volunteers, 74 to 75, gives some details. And then it talks about colonial uniforms in general. But they have like these little arrows, Grenadier Company, New York, and the arrows pointing that way. That's Private 2nd Battalion, New York. But it's also like real early, 75. I'm looking for 77, right? We got the Minutemen, various, what do you call them? Hunting jackets, round caps, bicorns, gaiters, a different length, depending on who you were. The militia, like the Green Mountain Boys. Yeah, Seth Warner's. When I see Green Mountain Boys, I think of GMB flags. Okay, North Carolina. You got the Delaware Militia. The Continentals. The Continentals was like 75 to 77. It was right in the middle of the war. And that's where I'm going to take most of my inspiration from, is the Continentals. You're going to see a lot of browns, like fabric colors, some grays and blues, like that guy's blue. But you're also going to see some units in red, which was not very popular amongst the Continentals because that's British colors. Canadians, Mass, New York, Newcastle County, Militia, Cavalry, and Artillery, Philadelphia, Regiments of the Frontier, which I'm not really sure about that, but they have Virginia in there. And then the Continental Regiments of 1776. 1776 is kind of the period of the paint jobs that I'm going for, even though they might have changed for 1777 or even 1783, but it's going to be a mixed bag when it comes to the Continentals. Some drums. canteens, swords, pouches, slings, additional Continental regiments. Not everybody was state. There were individuals that formed up their own units, like Webb and Sherburne, Lee. And then they do give unit distributions, which I'm not really too concerned with, but it says how many units each state provided. The Philadelphia Associators, Riflemen, and the Indians, right? And then, of course, state troops, which the state troops were, think of it like National Guard, because you got the Continental, which is the main army, and then you got state troops. Like he's 4th Maryland Independent Company, state artillery, and then it goes to the Continental Army. And the Continentals, before, early on, they weren't really that organized. But they were starting to get that way. Here's Continental Infantry, early uniform variations. New Hampshire, Maryland, New York. This is the one I'm probably going to be doing on those guys right there. That's the 3rd New York. And it says 1776. But that's okay. There's Virginia and Rhode Island, and then they talk about armies in the South. 1st Pennsylvania. So I'm going to get a lot of inspiration from this book as well. Mostly this book. Some light infantry. Dearborn light infantry. I don't know if they show it on here anywhere. I've got 4th Mass. I got Kirkwoods, Delaware, which could easily be Dearborn's as well. It might be in the text. I'll have to really look. Canadians. And then at 1779, which I'm kind of not going for, but I'll probably have some units painted like these. These guys are all pretty much standardized. Blue coats, white trim. Like this guy's got buff, this guy's got red. So they got regimental. Looks like they got regimental colors or state colors. But they're pretty much blue with everything. Short coats or whatever they call them are all white. And then there's the Continental Cavalry. Continental Artillery. Specialist troops like engineers and that kind of stuff. Sappers and miners. And then you got soldiers of the king, which that's pretty straightforward. We already know what they're going to look like. They're going to look like Napoleonic troops with tricorns. Pretty much. Look at that. That's a halberd. The drummers have the bear skins usually. Certain units wore bear skins. Certain guards had different soft caps. Some folded. Royal regiments. Fusiliers. The Highlanders. Which all of those, I'm excited to get into painting all those. There's some flags. Grenadiers. Yeah, like this guy. He's got it folded up. Various different types of helmets that light infantry would wear. The Irish. Artillery. What the heck? And then there's loyalists. They'd be like the Legion, right? The Americans fighting for the British. Loyalist cavalry. Rangers. And even the British had militia. Indians. And then it talks French and Germans. Which I'm not planning on doing French anytime soon, but I am planning on doing Brunswick. That shows Brunswick cavalry. S. Castle. Here it is, Brunswick infantry. I plan to do these guys. I need to do Retz Battalion, which both of these guys are from Retz Battalion. I need to do Spec. I don't need to do Von Banner. I don't know who that is. But I do need to do Riedesel. And I don't think I need to do any cavalry. Not for the Brunswick. Not for anybody in the Freeman's Farm battle, actually. Maybe later. And then you're talking about Hesse, Hanna, German Jaegers. That includes the Brunswickers. But what I need to do is go someplace that has the army compositions, the units that were present, and find out the units that were there that participated and how many men were in each of the units, so that I can calculate how many bases I need to do to make it a fighting unit. You know what I'm saying? All right, and so that's where I'm at with my American War of Independence project. Is I'm still doing a little bit of the research, the tracking down, not necessarily uniforms. I was doing that, but I really need to track down the army list. That is a little bit elusive because Warlord and British Grenadier have different, well, they're not different. They each have their own standard unit sizes, and they tried to plug everything in or force feed everything into a standard unit size. And I don't mind that, but I want to see where they got their information. But in the meantime, I will be painting these guys as the 3rd New York. So look forward to my next update, maybe showing a little bit of how far I've gotten painted. Since I'm only going to be painting 18 figures, 3 bases, it should go by pretty quick. You know, I'm thinking 1 week I should have them done. Less than a week, maybe a week. I don't know. All right, guys. Thanks for coming out and checking out my project update. And I'll catch you in the next one.